Hi guys, it's Dylan from Bijou Diamond Jewellery in London again, and today we're doing something slightly different. We're going to have a look at some of the releases from Basel 2018 so far, specifically the Rolexes, and I'm going to kind of give my first impressions of each of the watches. Let's start with the GMT from Rolex. So there's a new steel GMT option. The old one's not been replaced or gone. This new one has it's Pepsi bezel, so blue and red bezel in Cerachrome, which is Rolex's ceramic. And the watch also features a steel Jubilee bracelet, which is one of the first times for many years that we've seen the Jubilee feature on a sports watch like this, like a utility sports watch, as opposed to like the Datejusts. It has got kind of vintage vibes about it. I know they used to do the GMTs with Jubilees, and I quite like it. I know, well, from a lot of our clients, we have found, even in only the few hours that this watch has been out, that it hasn't been as well received as we thought it would have been. People aren't really a fan, or our clients haven't really been a fan of that Jubilee so far. They're not really liking that look to the watch. They prefer the more sporty looking oyster bracelet. It is quite a contrast with that big chunky case and then that really fine little bracelet with the little small links. That bracelet reminds me much more of a dress watch, or in my opinion is better suited to a dress watch due to that delicate look and that kind of jewelry feel about it. To then pair that with a chunky sports case with a rotating bezel, you know, with ridged edges, it kind of a little bit goes against what the watch is about, but I actually really like it. The watch features pretty similar, if not the same bezel that the white gold used to have, the white gold GMT. That white gold GMT has now actually been changed also, and that now has a blue dial as opposed to the old black dial. They obviously had to change the old white gold GMT in order to make this and that white gold look different, otherwise you'd have the same watch, but one is like quadruple the price. Let's move on to the next GMT now, and that is their new rose gold GMT. So this is the first time we've seen rose gold on a GMT, as far as I'm aware. And this features a half brown, half black bezel, which I think looks really cool. The rose gold and the brown looks really smart. And we've seen that from the day dates with the brown chocolate dials and the Daytonas. So Rolex does that a lot with the brown and the rose, and I think it looks really nice. It's a nice combination. And this is actually one of my favorite releases from the whole of Basel so far. I think it's a really cool looking watch. I think it's definitely different to what we've seen so far from Rolex or in the past. We haven't seen a rose gold sub or a GMT, so to see this case in rose gold is really cool. Obviously the Yachtmaster 1 comes in rose gold, so we've got a similar look there, but it's nice now to see it in the form of a GMT. And the next one in the GMT line is the Bimetal Gmt, which features steel and rose gold, and it has the same brown and black bezel that we see on the full rose gold one. I think this watch looks really cool. It's quite an interesting look to it. It's nice to see rose gold on the sports watches, like the big chunky utility sports watches, and I think it will do really well, this one. And to be fair, I think, definitely the steel will do the best. I think the waiting list on the steel is going to be very, very long. I believe that when the retail price on the steel one with the Jubilee bracelet is £6,800, so it's a little bit more expensive than the Jubilee bracelet, and I think this watch will sell well over list price when it releases in sort of end of this year when it comes to market. I believe it probably will come to market and sell for about £11,000 to £12,000, just so people can beat the waiting list. I think the waiting list will soon fill up. I don't know if it'll be as popular as the Daytona, but that, you know, time will tell. Watches are becoming bigger and bigger. The watch industry is becoming more and more, there's more and more eyes looking at the watch industry, and it's becoming, or Basel this year is biggest it's ever been. And then moving on to the rose gold one, what do I think of that? I think that's one of my favorite ones, like I said before, that's been released so far from Rolex and other brands. I think it will have its unique market. It won't sell as well as the steel one on the Jubilee, but I do think it's a nice addition to the line. It'd be interesting to see if they bring rose gold to the Submariner. I think the Bimetal one is probably going to be our best seller. We've already been asked by several clients, even just in these last few hours that these watches have been out, for the steel one, and obviously we've had to tell everyone that it's not going to be for a little while, but there's real interest in that watch already. But I personally think that we're going to sell a lot more of the Bimetal ones for our clients. From what I judge, from what our clients really like, I think this Bimetal one with the brown black bezel and the rose gold, I think that will do really well for our clients. Or the whole GMT lineup has really got some vintage vibes to it, bringing back some old styles, and I think it's a really cool look. A piece that probably will go a little bit unnoticed is the new white gold one, like I mentioned a second ago, with its new blue dial. I think that looks really nice. I think that is a really nice touch to this watch. It probably doesn't look as dressy and elegant as it did when it had the black dial. It'd be interesting to see what happens price-wise to the older ones with the black dial, because that now looks more similar to the new version of the steel one. The GMT also comes now with a new movement, which is the caliber 3285, which is slightly more reliable, better timekeeping, or better margins for timekeeping, and also a bit more of a power reserve as well. The user may not notice a massive difference, but anyway, it's nice to see that they're trying to improve the movement all the time. There's a new Datejust 36 and 31 that's been released with slightly different lugs and a slightly different case. I won't really go into depth on that one because the change is not very big. A new watch also is the Rolex Daytona in rose gold with some crazy gems going on. A nice little subdial, which I'm not sure, it looks like it might be meteorite subdial. I could be wrong, correct me if you know what it is in the comments. And there's also diamonds going along the lugs and the crown guards, which looks really cool. This is a really specific watch. I don't think we will sell many of them, if any, but it would be interesting to see if anyone actually requests this watch or has interest in this watch. These rainbow dials never do that well with us. We don't generally get much interest in these watches. And Rolex doesn't generally produce them in mass either, so yeah, I suppose this is kind of like a novelty or like a special edition from Rolex. Another release from Rolex is the new Rolex Deep Sea, or the Sea Dweller Deep Sea, and that has a new case, a new movement which is shared with the same movement that we see in the new Datejust, and it's also got a bigger bracelet. So the watch looks pretty similar to the old one. I personally prefer the old one, but yeah. I didn't expect them to release a new Deep Sea, so you know, it's nice that they've done that. It'd be interesting to see how well it does. The blue, or the D blue's always been very popular. Generally though, we don't get much interest in the Deep Seas. The last and final update, as far as I'm aware, for Rolex that I've seen so far is to the Sky Dweller line, and the rose gold Sky Dweller, full rose gold on a bracelet, now features the option to have a grey dial, which looks really cool. I actually really like this watch. I think that's an interesting looking piece, but my favorite one is the white dial. It's kind of got Datejust vibes about it, but I think, yeah, it looks really interesting. Those new dials also carry over to the leather strap options. The yellow gold features the new white dial also, and that white dial also carries through to the steel options, the bimetal options. I like the continuity across the whole line, that you can get every single one of those Sky Dwellers, and there's a lot of them, different metal types. To have every single one available on the white dial really allows clients, or allows us to show clients what the different colors of gold look like on your wrist, on the different options, and keeping that continuity with that dial really helps us when we're doing that, or helping clients make a decision on the watch they want, because it's difficult sometimes when we're trying to help a client make a decision on a piece, but there's no two similar dials to show them to help them decide if rose gold or yellow gold is right for them. And that is it so far from Rolex. So let's move over to Patek now and see what Patek Philippe have released. There's kind of a couple notable ones from Patek. One of them is the Aquanaut chronograph with the orange hands and little indices at the top or around the edge of the bezel for your seconds markers. It's an interesting looking watch. I think it will do really well. Most of the steel watches from Patek always do well. I think this watch on the orange strap is a really interesting, unique looking piece. It reminds me a bit of the Omega that we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, the Ploprof. It's an interesting looking watch. I think, again, it will do really well, but I'm not sure I believe in that super sporty look for a Patek. I think Patek is all about real high-end finishing and kind of more dressy watch vibes. I don't really feel that this really sporty orange watch fits with that ethos, or the Patek ethos, but anyway, I do think it will do well though. It's quite likely with both of these watches, the black strap and also the orange one, that they will sell over list price. As being a steel Patek, that's kind of a bit inevitable. They always sell for list price or over, so yeah, we'll have to see how they do. I think they'll probably do pretty well. Another notable watch from Patek is the new 57401G-001, which is their white gold perpetual calendar Nautilus. Nice looking watch with that lighter blue dial, kind of similar to the anniversary watches that we saw last year. Yeah, it's a nice watch. I don't know how well it will do in comparison to the steel ones because it's white gold. They're never usually as popular as the steel ones because they scratch more easily, etc, and they look the same as the steel. I don't think it'll do as well as those Aquanauts. There's a few new watches in their Grand Complication line, some really cool looking pieces, especially this 5531R. I think that's really nice, that little painting or detail in the middle of the dial. Probably my favorite release is the 5270P-001, which is the platinum Grand Complication piece from Patek. And it's a stunning looking watch, and it is now released in this salmon pink dial. They have done that on a few past watches, kind of vintage looking. It's got this real vintage look about it now, and it's probably actually my favorite watch from the whole of Basel so far. I think it's a really, really nice looking piece. I love it that Rolex and Patek have kind of gone back to those vintage vibes on a couple of their watches, looking at some vintage style, and I think it really works, bringing that vintage essence to a modern day watch. I think it looks really unique. Another one of my favorite new watches is the new 5205G. So that's the white gold 5205 from Patek. It's an annual calendar moon phase. It's a stunning watch. It's one of my favorite Pateks, the 5205 in white gold, so the G. I also like the rose gold, but not as much as the white gold. I really liked the old grey dial that they did, but this blue dial is absolutely stunning. I think could be one of my favorite Pateks out there. I think it's such a cool looking piece. The 5205 is not the most popular watch that Patek has made, but it is definitely up there. We barely ever get asked for 5205, which I think is a shame because I'd love to review it, and it is a great looking piece. And I think this new blue dial is a great addition to the collection. There's a couple new pilot watches, and that's pretty much it for notable releases from Patek. There are a few other ones, so go check out online on patek.com for their new releases under their 2018 collection. That is it from me today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more watch reviews that are coming soon. I'm sorry for the kind of bit more rough and ready style of this. I just wanted to get the video up there saying my first impressions on these new watches released from those two brands. Thanks guys for watching.